welcome to today's Way Forward Workshop, Leader Lunch Break, where we are thrilled to welcome Edwin Hubbard Jr., brand new in his newest leadership role with the Cleveland NAACP, where he is the executive director. Our Cleveland native comes from leadership roles with Newbridge Cleveland, the Akron Better Business Bureau, and the Akron Urban League. And in his current role, he works alongside the NAACP president. He is committed to serve through grassroots activism for civil rights and social justice. Edwin originally wanted to be a teacher, but then realized that he could achieve impact as a leader perhaps a little bit quicker in the nonprofit sector. His advice to leaders in the nonprofit sector is to be passionate, to listen, and to stick to what you believe in. He serves as a board member of 100 Black Men of America, Peel Demlayer's Back, and the Black Professional Association Charitable Foundation. He has a number of awards to his credit already. He's been recognized by Cranes in 2019 as 40 Under 40. 2018, the Greater Akron Chamber recognized him as 30 for the Future, and the Cleveland 2030 Club in 2020 recognized him as a top 25 under 35 movers and shaker. We look forward to hearing your vision for the future and the impact. Turn it over to you, Mr. Hubbard.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for having me here today to have a conversation about the Cleveland NAACP and what we have going on. So I'm excited to be here. I am 6 weeks in, so it's been an incredibly busy 6 weeks, but I'm happy to talk to you about the updates, the things that we have on the horizon for the future, and what being in this role means to me. So many of you may or may not know the history of the NAACP. The NAACP for us this year, we celebrate 111 years of being in this city. And I think that's interesting because one of the questions I often ask is, I get asked is about relevancy and what we do and just historically what we've done. When I think about the NAACP, I think about the civil rights movement. The NAACP for so many people, particularly people of color, is an entry point for civic engagement. So, and I'm being no different. You know, as I came up as a youth and started to learn about civic engagement, I looked at this organization. I saw what was happening in this organization, and I knew about certain issues, candidates, and things that were happening in my community because of the NAACP. Also, what I find very interesting is as I continue to have conversations with people about this organization, particularly youth, the way I can relay to youth what it is that I do on a day in and day out basis is referring to people like Martin Luther King Jr. And what I would tell you, I had an opportunity to speak to some youth for Career Day towards the end of the school year just last month. And when I said the organization's name, again, I was talking to maybe like 1st through 5th graders. They didn't know what the NAACP was, but they knew who Martin Luther King Jr. was, and they vaguely kind of understood what civil rights movement meant. So me explaining to them what I would tell you is a good analogy for trying to explain to my peers and other people in the community what we do and why what we do is so important. So the Cleveland branch NAACP was established in 1912 with the goal of improving the political, education, social, and economic status of minority groups in Cleveland. Our ultimate goal is to eliminate racial prejudice. We do this in a variety of ways, but the number one way is informing people about legislation and how we can make legislation work for them. So at this point, I want to make sure I share my screen so I can give you some background, a little bit of background information about the organization, and then I'm going to tell you what I have on the horizon for this organization. Okay. So I kind of gave you the general basis of when we came into existence, but a lot of people maybe or may not know that the NAACP is the nation's oldest, largest, and most widely recognized grassroots-based civil rights organization. I think that's unique because the lifeblood of our organization is its volunteers and how hard they work in order to carry out the mission of the organization, to raise awareness around um, civic issues and things that are most threatening the existence of Black and Brown people nationwide. So you heard a little bit of an overview about me, but I want to talk to you a little bit about what my focus is in my role. So just so you understand the structure of the NAACP, like any other executive director, I report to a board of directors, and I align myself very closely with our president, Kayla Griffin, who happens to be an attorney and works for All Voting is Local. I work with her to carry out the vision of the board of the directors, but then I'm also a resource to our community members, our community at large, and a voice for those who may not necessarily be heard. What you should know about the things I want to accomplish in this role for the NAACP is that I want to increase the coordinated community effort. So we are very actively engaged in our community. We have many conversations. I sit at many tables, but I want to increase the awareness of our organization in the community even more than what you see it as now. So what I would tell you, you can expect to see from me over the course of the next year. You'll see me everywhere. You'll see me attending a lot more events. You'll see me speaking a lot louder in terms of raising awareness about critical issues that are happening within our community. For example, the special election that's going to be happening on August 8th. I'll talk a little bit about that later on. You will see increased community resources. So a lot of what I focus on doing is creating resources around our community in places that need it the most. So we talk about voter registration. I create resources around those things. I raise dollars for those things. I raise dollars for literature. I raise dollars for scholarships to support youth that are going to college, and any resources that's particularly needed just to help people who need it the most. And then lastly, which I already kind of mentioned, is louder voices advocating for those who most need. When most people think about the NAACP, they think about a place that they can reach out to in order to make a complaint. So typically when people experience some type of hardship regarding prejudice or racism, they reach out to our organization for assistance, and we try to work to alleviate those issues or advocate on behalf of those people. With that being said, I want to give an opportunity to tell you about some of the things that I have coming, but I want to talk about some of the things that I've had the opportunity to be a part of since joining this organization just 6 weeks ago. Had opportunity to participate in a program called Right to Read, which was about raising awareness about literacy for youth. We got to participate with Shaw High School in East Cleveland along the lines of that. We also did a Vietnam Veterans Memoriam, and then at Red All Grain Partnership. And then we recently had a conversation on the Black Repo in Cleveland. So conversations like that have been consistent. And then we have a lot more things happening moving forward, even today. So you may not know today, right now, I have a contingent of people down in Columbus advocating for the Crown Act. So we have a group of individuals in Columbus advocating for the Crown Act, raising awareness on combating hair discrimination by ensuring that hairstyles historically associated with race, such as braids, locks, and natural hair, are protected. And then following the Crown Act, tomorrow we'll have an open house right here at our local branch that you all are welcome to come and attend, where you can learn more about the functionality of the NAACP, in addition to activities happening over this weekend as we prepare for Juneteenth, which is next week. Also, one of the major things that the Cleveland NAACP does has a Freedom Fund dinner. We have a Freedom Fund dinner coming on July 15th. That is our largest fundraising event of the year. And then that'll be followed by an accountability roundtable where we have conversations on taking action and being accountable for diversity, equity, and inclusion in Greater Cleveland. So those are just some of the things that we have going on. I love to get to a point where I can fill some questions and kind of talk to you more about, answer things that you may want to know about me, our organization, and as we move forward.
Great, Edwin, thank you. So let's jump in. So you mentioned you've been in the role for 6 weeks. So as you think back to these initial first few weeks, what are some of those reflections and some of the lessons learned you've already experienced?
I would tell you, when I think about lessons, I can't necessarily say it's a lesson, but it's something that's just a reminder. Relationships are important. Relationships for me have been important in every aspect of my career, and it's no different here. When engaging with our volunteers, being authentic, being available, and being consistent has been incredibly important. Our volunteers respond when I respond to them. And what I have learned and what I consistently do is my door is always open and I'm readily available to receive volunteers or calls or questions or support anyone I can in any way that I can.
You touched on a few of the issues that NAACP is currently advocating around, but can you talk about some of the additional scope of advocacy that the organization is engaged in?
Sure. Right now, the most important thing that's on our agenda right now is August 8th. We are mobilizing and pulling a group of people together in order to make our community aware of the importance of this special election, where you can vote, how you should be registered to vote, and what the impact of those issues are on us.
And what strategies are you currently developing to ensure that younger generations know about the NAACP?
So I have consistent communications with our communications chair, and then we have strategists that have that we're constantly having conversations about what does the future look like? How do we make it relevant for younger people? What I would tell you right now, being 6 weeks in, we're utilizing social media probably more than we ever have. We are having conversation with youth on the best way to engage them and to get them to understand why civic engagement is so important. As we continue to roll out that strategy, I can give you additional details, but right now, that's where I am.
You mentioned the upcoming Juneteenth celebrations. What are the plans that you have in place for those?
Okay, so going into this weekend, I'm excited to talk about that. Going into this weekend, like I said, we have the open house happening here tomorrow evening, followed by a phone dial-a-thon where we'll be reaching out to ensure that people are registered to vote and understand the issues that are at stake on the August 8th election. And then there are a variety of events happening all next week. So we will be out and doing literature drops and dialing and making phone calls over the weekend.
So thinking about the Crown Act that you discussed, is there a plan for practical application or ways to hold employers accountable for non-discriminatory practices in relation to the Crown Act?
I would have to defer that question to a little bit later. Like I said, right now, we're down at the state capitol having these conversations, and I can give you some follow-up after our group returns and what we plan to do moving forward.
So in building relationships, and you mentioned the importance of those, what are some of those key relationships and partnerships that you are currently working on in our community?
So for me, as a trade, I'm a fundraiser. So always being connected to our foundations, our corporate partners, and individual donors. For me, individual donors very much looks like members and volunteers. every single day I'm on the phone with our volunteers. I'm connected with our volunteers. I'm showing up. I'm out in the community with my volunteers. I think that that's going to be the key to my success. I think that that's the key to moving this organization forward. So what I would tell you is I'm authentic and organic in the way that I have those conversations, and I'm available.
A question just about membership. What is the membership fee to join?
It's a great question. $30. $30 is just a general membership fee. And what a lot of people don't know is you can become a member of the NAACP at any age. So my children have NAACP memberships, and they're 4 and 8.
And you mentioned the Freedom Fund. So can you talk a little bit more about that event and how someone might become involved?
Sure. Freedom Fund is our annual fundraiser. It's going to be held July 15th at the Cleveland Browns Stadium. Again, this is our 111th anniversary. Freedom Fund is a pretty amazing event in the way that we generally have in attendance upward of 700 people. This year's keynote speaker is Michael Eric Dyson, and tickets will go on sale in about a week. Tickets are $150, and corporate sponsorships are still available. So you can reach out directly to me if you are interested in purchasing a table or a corporate sponsorship. And then if you want to attend as an individual, you're certainly welcome to purchase your ticket next week when that link becomes available.
Edwin, I think we talked about individual memberships, but are organizations able to join as a member?
Absolutely. Organizations are absolutely able to join. So I'm a member of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated, and most D9 organization or Divine 9 organizations have some type of annual membership that they keep with the NAACP. And companies and other organizations are also able to maintain those memberships as well.
Going back to the part of engaging around youth, what would partnership with schools look like in developing civic-minded youth?
I think that's a very good question. And I think I wouldn't be the only person to answer that. But for me, I think first part is being present. If kids don't see you and kids don't have an opportunity to engage with us, then they don't know what it is that we do. I find myself not only having conversations with youth about the importance of civic engagement, but adults. I think the much larger problem is, do people really understand what's at stake if you are not civically engaged or involved? I talk to kids about making a difference in their lives. And what I say when I'm out in the community is that if you want to create this community that you envision, the only way you can do it is through policy and legislation. So in order for you to really make legislation work for you, you have to be registered to vote and you have to participate in voting.
Do you work to educate the community about advocacy and the importance of advocacy and how to participate effectively in that type of work?
Yes, I would say that I'm out in the community and having those conversations every single day. But I would tell you, and I'll be transparent, that it's difficult because I constantly think about how I engage the community and at which level. I really have to make it simple in terms of what really matters to you. And I think that's how I start the conversation everywhere I go. What matters to the people in the community? And then after people have an opportunity to tell me what they really care about, we talk about how we can make that happen. And ultimately, it goes back to legislation.
So thinking about the work you've done so far, what have been those bright spots you've seen? What really gives you hope?
My volunteers. I am encouraged daily by my volunteers. They are passionate. They're supportive. I literally have volunteers working and doing things 7 days a week. So it's very common on a Saturday that I'll get a call that our volunteers are going out to a community event, and they're often asking me if I'd like to attend with them. I just really, I'm moved just by how much engagement I get from my volunteers. I think that that's a bright spot. I would also tell you the success of the Freedom Fund dinner. We are in a great spot. I think when it's all said and done, we'll probably raise upwards of $300,000 to continue to support the mission and work of this organization. And I think what's also important is that we have the opportunity to have a room of people to inform them of the issues that are constantly impacting our lives. So that's a bright spot for me. And then doing the work that I feel is legacy work, going out into the community and representing an organization that elevates people, particularly those of color, and gives a voice to people who otherwise did not have a voice is something that means a lot to me. So that's a bright spot.
So let's talk a little bit more about those volunteers. How many volunteers do you have, and what is the type of work that they're doing? How do they serve as ambassadors?
That's a good question. So I'm gonna explain that two different ways. In terms of membership, I have about 1,300 members. And consistent volunteers, I have around 30 to 50 consistent volunteers. If you would include our board of directors, our executive committee, and then the entire board at large, and then we have general body meetings. Those members have volunteer positions, and they are our boots on the ground. Obviously, being in this space, we don't have a huge staff. We have a small but mighty staff. We can't be everywhere at one time. Our volunteers are there for us. So as I go out and have conversations at churches regarding the upcoming elections and potential membership of people being a part of the NAACP, I have volunteers who are readily available to go out and speak to those congregations and those organizations for me. I think that makes all the difference in the world. Again, we had a group of volunteers go down to Columbus today. And they're right now down there having conversations. And so I really think that, those are the things that are really helpful for our organization. Those are the game changers for our organizations. And that's who allows us to continue to do the work. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't say, like, the key positions, like we have a legal redress chair. We have attorneys who are looking at the complaints and things that our office receives and help us with clarity and direction on how we should advocate and how we can help those people who have problems.
So being that you are an active member of a Black Greek letter organization and how closely the work of the NAACP aligns with the mission and vision of the Divine Nine, how can community events and volunteerism be better aligned for greater impact?
I'm sorry, could you say that one more time for me?
The focus is how might the Black Greek letter organizations and NAACP work be better aligned for in the community impact and volunteerism?
Okay, so I do have a lot of conversations with other Black Greek organizations. I would say two things. A, our organizations have to consistently be at the table. And we need great engagement. So every Greek letter organization here in Cleveland is robust in terms of their membership. If their memberships are not only just actively engaged in the organizations, but actively engaged in having conversations about issues that impact the community, I think that they are an additional voice. Understanding that although I work for the organization, I'm a community member. So the laws that impact me are the same laws that impact you, are the same laws that impact my fraternity. And so I have that conversation frequently. What are the greatest issues impacting our communities? And are you at the table? And are you willing to leverage your voice and your organization to help us raise awareness?
So as you were out there having conversations with individuals and you ask people what matters, what are some of the topics that you're hearing?
Economic impact. People want jobs. If people don't have jobs or people don't have great health care, they're not really interested in having a conversation about voting. But the argument for me is that you get these things by using legislation. You have to have those conversations because that's what determines what's available to you. But I hear that a lot. Better schools. I can't tell you how many times people talk to me about gun violence. That is a very frequent conversation that I have. And leadership within the community. People will ask to have mentors and role models for their kids.
So as you look ahead to the vision that you want to achieve for your work in this role, what are some of the hurdles that you anticipate over the months ahead, and how are you looking to overcome those?
So hurdles for me, I think in the day-to-day is not having enough time in the day to do every single thing. I can't there every single day somebody can bring me an issue that I want to be passionate about and I want to jump all the way into, but then I have a list of things that I need to accomplish before I get to those things. So prioritizing, I think, is incredibly important, but I also think that it's a barrier at the same time because certain issues pull my heartstrings. Um, I think the other thing is finances, always working to raise money to support. We have a limited amount of funds, and so consistently working to raise dollars to support the initiatives that we're a part of is also important. And then another thing that it's a barrier, but not. Being in this role, I'm a part of a lot of different organizations and committees, one being like RAFC, so Race is a Public Healthcare Crisis. I'm a part of a lot of these conversations. So sometimes being a part of so many conversations and constantly being at the table talking takes away from action. And so determining what tables I need to be at consistently and when to convert that to action, I think is a hurdle.
You've spent time in leadership roles in organizations based in Akron. How has that transition up to Cleveland been, and are you looking to and working to collaborate with entities in the Akron area?
So, I'm born and raised in Cleveland, and so I'm very familiar with this community, but I spent 5 years of my career working in Akron and really being connected in the Akron community. Akron and Cleveland are very different cities, but what I would tell you in any city, in any major city in the United States, is relationships. Being authentic and organic and how I built relationships have allowed me to navigate in many ways. So although I'm very active and I'm here in Cleveland and busy in this community, I'm still active in Akron as well. We have conversations with Akron's NAACP branch, and we've gone and advocated with them. We've marched with them along the lines of Jalen Walker. And so organizations like the NAACP in Akron, we stand in solidarity, but then also because I am involved in so many other organizations, they kind of have to hear me talk about what I do every single day.
So for those of us on the call, what can we do to help you elevate the work of the NAACP?
So from the perspective of an individual, be aware of the issues. Do research and know the issues that are at stake. Have conversations with your loved ones and community members about the things that are happening around us. I would be remiss if I didn't say you couldn't help me by becoming a member of the NAACP. I would certainly encourage you to get engaged, not only just join, but to be active, to come down to the office, to come visit us, to attend the events and the conversations that we're having around the community. Once you're aware of the issues and the things that are happening, I think that that's the greatest help that you can be to me. I think that's the greatest help that you can be to yourselves, and I think that's the greatest help you can be to the community.
Well, Edwin, we thank you for joining us and sharing your work in such a short amount of time already, and we look forward to all that you will accomplish through your role with Cleveland's NAACP.
Thank you.
All right. Edwin, I'll echo Rachel's thanks and thank you for giving of your time this afternoon. We look forward to great things coming from your leadership and how we can support you in doing that work.